Hi guys, I'm Hannah. I'm a food writer and recipe developer, and today I'd love to show you how to make a mushroom pasta dish. It's going to be a riff on the classic cacio e pepe, which is super popular. It uses delicious pecorino cheese and black pepper. Today we're incorporating seasonal mushrooms, which are getting sauteed in some butter. It'll be perfect for the colder weather ahead, so let's get started. I'd love to use a shortcut pasta known as campanelle. It's also known as gili in some places. It's basically a beautiful kind of bell flower shaped pasta. It has a beautiful ruffled edge. You want to be a little bit careful with it as it gets cooking because sometimes it tends to unfurl. You can use any shortcut pasta you'd like. You can use also traditional spaghetti, a thicker variety, or bucatini if you want to stay closer to traditional cacio e pepe. So that's 8 ounces of dried pasta. We had some salted boiling water at the ready, and keep an eye on it, and you want to cook it to just under al dente. Before your pasta reaches the al dente stage, you'll want to reserve some of the starchy cooking water. I would say about 1.5 cups. You won't likely need all of it, but you don't want to be left without. You'll probably use closer to just 1 cup, but better to be safe with a little extra. So the pasta is done. We have our reserved starchy cooking water, and we're going to drain it and let it hang out while the mushrooms finish cooking. One way that this recipe is different from a traditional cacio e pepe is our inclusion of mushrooms. You won't see that in the classic dish, but mushrooms love butter, and today we'll be cooking with Vermont Creamery butter, which is cultured, brings a nice nuttiness, and it just pairs so well with like that sharp pecorino cheese. So you guys are gonna start in a cold pan. You might see this technique in a classic cacio e pepe. We have peppercorns, which we hand crushed in a mortar and pestle, but if you have a pepper mill, just open it up to your widest setting, and it's just really nice. You get more of the aroma, and the broken texture is just really beautiful in the final dish. So about 1.5 teaspoons straight into a cold pan. Then make sure it's evenly set out. We're gonna set it to, let's say, a medium-low. It shouldn't take more than maybe 30-60 seconds for you to really smell that peppercorn aroma. Obviously, you know what pepper smells like, but it's so much nicer to get some of that floral fragrance as well, which is not something you normally associate with pepper, but toasting it this way brings it all out. So once you smell your peppercorns getting fragrant, I would bump it up to a medium-high heat. We are adding about 1 tablespoon of olive oil, that's so the butter doesn't burn, and 2 of the 3 tablespoons of the butter. Once it's melted and foamy, we'll add in the mushrooms. But this step is really good because the pepper really infuses into the cooking fats. So once the butter has melted and is foamy, that's when you want to add your cremini mushrooms. These are all chopped and ready to go. By the way, did you guys know cremini mushrooms, white button mushrooms, and portobellos are all the same? These are kind of like the teenagers, and then white button mushrooms are like the babies. Portobellos are the adults. And all the mushrooms are in the pan. You want to just give everything a good stir so everyone is coated in the buttery, peppery oil. And mushrooms are really full of water. They're going to exude moisture, but don't fret. You just want to keep at it. In the meantime, just let them hang out for like 8 to 10 minutes, giving them a stir once in a while. Ultimately, what we want are mushrooms that have lost most of their moisture and are slightly browned around the edges. So one thing I wanted to note is when you usually cook mushrooms, it's encouraged to salt the mushrooms towards the end after they've lost some of the moisture. But what I like about this Vermont Creamery butter, which is only slightly salted, is it helps to season the mushrooms from the very start. Just check on the mushrooms, they're on their way. You can see some brown edges, but not quite there. They're at a good point. While the mushrooms are cooking, now would be a great time to get started on your cheese paste. And what that is basically your grated pecorino cheese, the cacio, if you will, and just a little bit of the starchy pasta cooking water. I would start with just 2 or 3 tablespoons, and then we can add a little bit more later. Now what this does is act as kind of as insurance, because we'll be adding it to the mushrooms and pasta at the end. If you want to avoid kind of that clumpy cheese that you sometimes get when making cacio e pepe, this will help kind of smooth things out. So the mushrooms are almost done. They're looking so good, nicely brown all around the edges. We're going to knock the heat back to, let's say, a medium-low. And we're going to bring the just shy of al dente pasta and get it all together. So remember, the pasta is not quite fully cooked yet, so we want to help it along and make the sauce by adding about a ½ cup of the water. And the last tablespoon of butter. This helps give the sauce a nice glossiness and richness, and frankly, no one would refuse another tablespoon of butter when it comes to pasta. So the pasta is looking great. It just needs to meet the cheese, which we'll do now off the heat. So turn off your burner, and if it's looking a little dry, we can add a little bit more of that reserved cooking water as well. So our mushroom pasta is done and it's looking so good. At this point, you can season it with a touch more salt, but frankly, between the salty pecorino cheese and the Vermont Creamery butter, it's seasoned perfectly for my taste. So let's plate it up and eat. I love this shaped pasta. It just brings a smile to my face. It's so pretty. As I mentioned, mushrooms just love butter. So cooking with cultured butter really brings so many great characteristics to the table. You get that nuttiness, almost like a hazelnut flavor, and buttermilk. Again, that tang that just pairs so well with the pecorino cheese. What I like about this pasta too is that the butter just plays so well with the mushrooms as they normally do, but it also pairs really well with the cheese. And you can just tell that the Vermont Creamery butter is really high quality. It comes from family farms, and it just rounds out this dish so nicely. I hope you guys try this delicious pasta dish. You can find this and other great recipes on food52.com. Thanks for watching.